11th, 2020. Please rise to pledge allegiance to the flag. Please, I got to get my flag on.
Where's your flag?
Okay, here it is. I
pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing, please, to honor all our servicemen and women serving our country both here and abroad, past and present. And please remain standing to keep our heads bowed and honor all our healthcare heroes, every one of the frontline workers. God bless them all.
Amen.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to do a roll call tonight, so first thing I'd like to do is give Sean McGinnis the authority to sign the warrant. So we need a roll call. So those in the affirmative, please answer yes or no. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes, you have the authority to stamp and sign the warrant.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't see John. Is he on there?
John's, well, he's right on my left.
Yeah,
I
right
see.
there.
Yep. So,
I got him.
all right.
Not on
So
my screen.
unanimous decision to sign the warrant. Appointments, 603. Marijuana Host Committee Agreement Vendor Review Presentation. We need to vote on it. It's an application to award a host community agreement. Welcome. He's right on my left. Yep. So I don't have any audio.
I got audio.
No,
I
I
can
do,
hear you.
but I'm not. I don't hear anybody from.
Oh, well,
We can hear you.
You can, or Patho?
Yep.
Therapeutics. Who wants to speak?
hello. Matthew?
You hear me?
Hear you.
Excellent.
Yeah. Just state your name, please.
Matthew McGarris, the President and Secretary of Apatho Therapeutics.
Hey. So you have quite a presentation. I'm very impressed. And I know we have to go through this, and there'll be some questions. But you want to give us a little bit of an outline at this point. You don't have to be in too much depth, but just to give the people that are watching at home a bit of what your company wants to do in our town.
Of course.
There's no. My wife is telling me there's no audio at off of DCTV. Peter.
Yeah, my wife just said the same thing.
Peter. All right. Okay, thank you. Yep, thank you. Yeah, it'll be recorded. So go right ahead, Matthew.
Apatho Therapeutics Dartmouth would like to open a recreational dispensary in the town of Dartmouth on 479 Fonts Corner Road. We aim to ensure a very high exalted experience for the town of Dartmouth, or community we plan on opening in, and the customers that will be locally around the Dartmouth area.
So you know that this is just the first part of the application, obviously, and you. This is our second time around. I believe, Mr. McGinnis. This is our second time around.
Yes. Apatho had applied the first round, and they came back and applied for the second
Right.
round.
Well, good for you. Any of the members have questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Herron.
Where will you be purchasing your product from?
We will be purchasing it from vendors in the state of Massachusetts. They can be provided to both medical vendors, but we have vendors ready for product as well.
There's enough supply for all the vendors coming online?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I have a question on the host agreement. Is now the time to talk about that or later?
Well, we can ask a few questions now. We can talk about that after, John, all right?
Question?
Mr. Tettelbaum.
Thank you. Recognizing that there's an awful lot of laws to follow and well-written laws by the state, and you certainly have followed them by making this presentation, and you've got an organization that comes from all facets of be it security or supply, but this is your first venture. How much have you been able to rely on information or on-site of other organizations, how they're running, and to kind of replicate that and maybe even improve it?
Of course, of course. The past 2 years, me and my brother have been going to various conferences and other entities as well to ongo and see their operations in terms of how they handle their security, their staff, and their overall compliance with the CCC and with other organizations in other states. We've seen multiple cultivators and retailers in this state, as well as states in California and Nevada as well.
And some of the people you brought on in the organization have had firsthand experience in this kind of operation?
Yes, actually, Connor Yost is here. He is the third-party consulting company that my brother and I, Andrew, have worked with consistently. He has been able to be in this industry since 2014, has the experience of opening multiple licenses and helping people open licenses in both cultivation and retail, as well as finances, operations, and overall compliance with the CCC since this industry has come into fruition.
Will he have an active role or a consultant from the outside looking in, or how do you perceive
Yes,
his role?
Utilizing him in terms of operation and overall management in terms of guidance and advice. Yes.
Thank you.
How about security, Matthew?
We have here Nancy Sheldon. She's our director of security. She has extensive experience in overall retail, running in 3 different Macy's retail in terms of overall theft prevention and overall maintenance of security as well in all those areas. She has extensive experience in the Seacon Police Force as well.
I also noticed that you have committed to hire
We have here
residents as
Nancy Sheldon.
much as
She's our
possible
director
in
of
this facility.
security. She has extensive experience in overall
It's always a good
retail,
thing.
running in 3 different Macy's retail
It is.
in terms of
Anyone else?
overall theft
Mr.
prevention
Gracie.
and overall
Thanks, Dan.
maintenance of
I know in some of
security
the
as well
other
in all those areas. She has
situations
extensive
around
experience
the state,
of the Seacon
people
Police
have
Force
set up
as well.
delivery service. Is that something you people plan?
I also
Delivery
noticed that
services
you
are actually eligible.
committed to
We have
hire
here
residents as
Nancy, we
much
have
as
already. She's our
possible
director
in
of
this facility.
security. She has extensive
delivery services.
experience
However,
in
Apothecary
overall
It's always a
retailer
running
and
as a
in 3 different
non-social
Macy's
economic
retail
empowerment member
It is.
in
cannot
terms
partake
of
Anyone else?
overall
management of a delivery
theft
service.
prevention
Mr. Gracie.
have to contractually
and
have a delivery
overall
Thanks, Dan.
as well.
maintenance of
I know in
Because
some of the
I
other
in all those areas.
security
She has
classes
extensive
around how you
experience
state
in the Seacon
people
Police
have
Force
set up
as well.
delivery
Of course.
service. Is that something
For
you people
security,
plan?
for instance,
I
say
also
delivery
noticed
services
that
are
you
actually
are
eligible to
committed to
deliver
hire
services here by
residents
CCC
as
guidelines.
much as
We have
possible
already
in
our
this
director of
facility.
security as well. She has extensive
delivery services.
experience
However,
in
Apothecary
overall
It's always a good
retailer as well. 3 different avenues in overall standards in terms of
certification
Anyone else?
overall
management of
is what the regulations are currently today.
Do they require guards to make sure that you don't get robbed en route?
Well, as my understanding of the regulations, there has to be, with the body cams, there has to be more than 1 individual in the car to capture what the instance is occurring so that they can go back in the recordings and see overall.
Okay, thanks.
But that not necessarily would be a guard. He's just another hired hand.
Yep, not necessarily a guard. This is all taken by a separate entity and that will be contracted with Apotho Therapeutics overall.
Right, and that entity would also need to have a host community agreement with the town.
Would also have most community agreement with the town, yes.
Great. Anyone else?
If the delivery company had to have a host agreement, would that cut into the 3 host agreements we have with the town?
No, because-
I don't believe that it would, because that is separate. So that would be a separate host agreement. That's just for delivery. It's not for retail sale. The retail sale would come from another entity with a host community agreement.
I've never heard of a host agreement for a delivery yet. This is the first time I'm hearing of this.
When? Oh, go ahead, Matthew.
This is the first time the state plans on implementing it. There were first talks at the beginning of last year, but this is the first time, based on the COVID ramifications and restrictions as well, that they were been thinking about implementing this to help small businesses.
Any of the other states, are you aware, have deliveries?
California, Colorado, Nevada are aware, as well as I believe Florida is implementing it as well. But the main is actually the West Coast.
Yeah, I think Colorado did it first.
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Tattlebaum.
The timeline you submitted needs to be pretty much updated and redone.
The timeline we submitted in this presentation?
Well, the one that was submitted to us for the meeting, not the
There are a few response. Yes, that timeline's changed a little bit because of this COVID situation.
So that was simply the one we were going to meet at some point in the past, but that has to be now. This has been updated now. That has to be redone. The timeline that we presented in our packet. Correct.
But yeah, we had hoped to have Apollo Therapeutics before you in February, but with what's going on, it took this much time.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Gracie.
Excuse me. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on delivery, but just something that popped up in my mind. If you get to the point where you do have a delivery service, is that a dedicated delivery service to you, or is it like a Grubhub where they can work for many different service places?
Each delivery service has to be contracted to a single dispensary only.
Okay, thanks.
Interesting. Anyone else? Mr. Herron, any other?
I have a question on the community benefits. It's like $85,000 a year for 4 years, and it seems to me that it would be we would be committing to three things: parks, health, and public safety.
Yes.
Will we be locked into parks, health, and public safety as not as the distributor, but as ourselves? The reason why I asked that, if I had $85,000 today to use, I'd be giving it to the, Council on Aging.
So I can answer that question, John. It's $85,000 for FY20 and $340,000 per year for the following years.
Yeah.
That money we dedicated to those entities: Health and Human Services, Parks and Recreation, and Public Safety. It's up to the board. They can decide which year, which entity receives the funding, or if they want to break it up 3 ways each year. It's really up. It's the board's. It's the town's decision.
But not town meeting.
No, it's the select board's decision.
Correct.
Right, but we're not locked into parks, health, and public safety right now. We could change that to,
correct,
like I said, cost of Council on Aging.
You could split it however you want between those 3 items.
Thank you.
Especially now that times have changed. So when that was written, obviously we were not going through a pandemic. So I can understand that. Anything else, Mr. Herron?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Well, if I could just add, Selectman Mickelson, I just want to thank our host community agreement review team, our internal team that did a lot of work reviewing many of these RFQ responses, and also taking a lot of their time and effort to really do a detailed review of all the materials. You can see that just this one response has a lot of material in it. They reviewed many. They really put a lot of thorough research into this project. So along with me, it was Greg Barnes, the Director of Budget and Finance, Deb Wender, the Director of Development, Christine O'Grady, our Director of Planning, Dave Requena, our Director of Inspectional Services, Deputy Chief James Story, and also Cody Haddad, who is our analyst intern, who really did a lot of work for us, a lot of the legwork, a lot of the research. So he was really involved and did excellent work on this. So I just want to thank that group. They did a great job.
Okay. Mr. McDonald.
We were sent a presentation slide, I guess, what they were going to show the board. Are we going to see that? Because I know under normal circumstances, we'd be sitting in a room face to face and we'd be seeing this versus here, the people that are watching this or will be watching this on review really have no idea what this is all about, other than a retail store that is other than the location of Fons Corner Road. They haven't seen what we've seen, the voluminous packet that's in our package. But I know the slideshow that they had, the presentation, can at least kind of give people an idea of what this is involved and what it's going to look like.
I was going to suggest the exact same thing.
Well, it can also be posted on our website. Is that correct, Mr. McGinnis?
Yes, definitely.
Because it is quite large, but if somebody really the packet it's a wonderful job. As I said earlier in the beginning, you did a great job to explain things to us, to the layman, pictures, explanations. This must be 300 pages, and a lot of work.
I would agree that I think this short slide presentation, maybe a quick review of that to give us an idea of give people in the public out there an idea of the size of the building and what's going to be, in just a brief synopsis. I think would be a great idea. I agree with Frank and Sean on that one.
So are you capable of doing that now, Mr. Medeiros?
Yes.
Are you capable of just doing a little overview with a slide presentation?
Of course, if you would like, I could share my screen and do the presentation so the public can see it as well.
Yeah, sure. That's wonderful.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, great.
Everyone can hear me well. Excellent. So first and foremost, thank you to the Select Board in the Town of Dartmouth for having me and my team here today. Today I'll be going about our overall mission, our team, our proposed site, the interior operations as a whole, the security, the operating procedures, our timeline to open, the town benefits we will be providing, as overall a summary for Apotho Therapeutics Dartmouth. Apotho Therapeutics is dedicated to producing and distributing high quality products while also transcending exclusive experiences for every single one of our customers. Our entire mission is to provide unparalleled service to both our customers as well as our community. Apotho, or APT, has 3 values. Our acuity for researching and understanding the science of cannabis and its cannabinoid derivatives for customers. The philosophy of hiring locally and also hiring diverse demographics and backgrounds to create a unity by diversity culture so that everyone, no matter what background they come from, can go toward a main goal of serving its community. And finally, tenacity, ensuring every single customer not only grasps the facts of our products, but also receives a personalized experience for what they like about cannabis products and guidance for use as a whole. Our leadership is headed by 3 people. My brother, Andrew Medeiros, the CEO, is an experienced leader with the Apotho team, has experience in education as a professor, and will excel in areas such as customer education, dispensing best practices, as well as including and unifying the Apotho team as we continue together. The oversight will be headed by myself, the president and secretary of Apotho Therapeutics. My background is in biology and biotechnology, with extensive experience in laboratory research and oversight, but also mainly management roles in chemical manufacturing and pharmaceutical and biochemistry research and management as a whole. In that process, I've learned the safety and efficacious manner of hiring and managing staff. Connor, as mentioned previously, is the director of Nucleus One, is a third-party consulting firm that, again, since 2014, has been in this industry and has experience in business operations, financial management, and compliance. We plan on using Connor and his team for overall on-site oversight and ongoing management at the dispensary through the startup phase and during operations as a whole. We also have Stephen Lima, who unfortunately cannot join us today. He is our finance and treasurer. He is a CPA and MST with over 40 years of experience in financial management of various privately held companies and public accounting firms. He as a whole will ensure that our municipality programs and enhanced business-to-business processing programs are not only by CC standards, but also efficacious and beneficial to the towns. Our compliance or general manager is Ronald Case, he is here today. He has been a community leader for decades in experience in assisting at-risk incarcerated adults and youths at risk, as well in recent years working as a general manager for a local fitness company where he's not only provided jobs and internships, but vocational training to employees with special needs, as well as several other members. Ron has extensive management experience and will be conducting all medical experiences at Apotho Therapeutics Dartmouth. Nancy Sheldon, as mentioned previously, is our security director. She has served in numerous security and asset protection roles in the retail industry, as well as serving as a public safety sector. Currently, she serves as a manager of asset protection across 3 Macy's department stores in RI and MA, and will be ahead of our security for Apotho Therapeutics Dartmouth. Overall, this is seen by the board, but for the public, this is a 5,000 square foot proposed site on 479 Fonts Corner. Overall, it will have 2-way accessibility and ample parking of 35 spaces on the site. The building exterior, we have nuisance mitigation protocols and programs in which a traffic study was completed, and only an ample of 77 more vehicles will be going through this area, which will be easily handled by the 2 lots, which I will be explaining today. Overall, our operation manual includes that lights will be set and illuminated for the safety of people parking and walking on the public sidewalks of Dartmouth, as well as mitigating noise and traffic waste policies as set by the standards by the town of Dartmouth. Our odor mitigation system, which we plan on putting inside the building, is a carbon filter to ensure that any odor and smell is captured by carbon molecules inside of this filter. It is not exacerbated outside of the building, so all smell stays inside of the dispensary. We will also have secure loading and unloading dock systems to create a man trap for all products going in from other cultivation facilities to ensure that no access can be obtained from outside of the dispensary or authorized members as a whole. The building will be backed 100% by a generator, which means our security systems will be uninterrupted for power supply no matter what the weather throws at us. Also, the exterior signage and visibility as a whole are in and will comply to CCC standards as well as the town of Dartmouth standards as well. Over operational layout, we will have 14 POS systems and ample space for customers. If COVID regulations and restrictions still go 10 months from our proposed plan of when we plan to open, we will actually be open every single other register with 6 feet of social distancing space and markings on the floor to ensure that we will comply with future regulations upon opening if this persists. Also, if COVID does not, we are able to open with regular restrictions and guidelines. We will have customer flow guided by our floor layout. We will have customers waved down upon entering by each associate, and will easily mitigate all foot traffic flow. Also, we have secure delivery and storage vault accesses, so no product will be able to be accessed by a customer coming into the store. I will be further going into the store's overall security processes in a later slide, but overall, the security cameras will be covering all 360 degrees with alarms, glass break sensors, and dual access control for officers inside of Apotho Therapeutics Dartmouth. The second floor as a whole will include interior office space that overlooks the dispensary. This is what we plan to use as management-only staff and overall corporate admins for Apotho Therapeutics in our other locations as well, but primarily Dartmouth. The leadership at this dispensary will ensure that the integration overall with the community and charities will be implemented from this office as well. I'm going to walk you through our sales process as well. A customer will first enter in through a secure vestibule, or a man trap, if you will, in which they will give a verified ID, which will be scanned by a receptionist. And upon verification that ID is 21 years or older, they will be released or buzzed in, if you will, to the sales floor. They can then go in two directions. First, they can go into the regular sales floor. They have queue lines in which they will be able to access all of our registers and be able to be helped in product selection and verification of their ID again when they're at the registers. Once they choose a product, the sales associate will then process the transaction and they will proceed to be move outside the exterior security vestibule and leave an exit only door. The second is for foot traffic mitigation as well that we'll be implementing, which is online ordering. This online ordering process will also, upon entry, be put in a queue in which a sales associate will scan the ID and that ID will coordinate with their online order. The online order will then be tracked and processed through this, and they will also be grabbed the online order, give it to the customer, process the sale, and the customer will leave out the same door as a regular customer coming in without an online order, which is secure. Inventory. Inventory overall will be handled by our inventory manager. This will be purchased ahead of time at each cultivator to ensure no short of supply. Once ordered, it will be shipped and received, and it will go into the man trap as previously discussed. This man trap will make sure it is secure and no one outside or unauthorized can access this. In terms of transferring from the vehicle into the loading area, items will be counted, weighed, and compared, in which they will either be accepted by CCC standards of quality and overall purity, or rejected. On rejected items, they will go into the metric system, which is a CCC standard programming for tracking all inventory standards, and they will be returned to the supplier, and it will be noted and documented. If it is accepted, it will go into the metric system anyway and go into the apotheotherapeutics vaults, in which the vault will go into the sales floor no more than 1 hour prior to opening to prepare for high foot traffic. Also, these items will also be used for online ordering processes, and it will track who ordered what, and that will be processed from the vault onto the sales floor as well, and for customers selling items. All unsold products at the end of the day will be locked and secured back in the vault as well. Overall security, again, there's 24/7 security coverage in this location with on-site interior and exterior during all business hours. There will be video surveillance coverage capturing both exterior and interior processes, which are limiting products, storage, gas registers, and also waste disposal as well, in compliance with this. There will also be continuous interior and exterior security monitoring to prevent theft and overall diversion. And finally, again, there will be secure delivery for storage areas with limited access and uninterrupted surveillance to ensure compliance and safety. The overall site parking, if you see on the left-hand side indicated lot 1, that is our dispensary location with 35 spaces for customers. Also, on the right-hand side, you see, this is our secondary lot with the cameras that has 360-degree view. This is an additional 29 spaces where, if deemed high traffic areas is too high for flow, we will have employees park here and proceed safely on the sidewalk to the dispensary before operating hours, and we will assure their safety to the dispensary. Lot 2 is an example of the proposed site on the other side, and this is not for apotheotherapeutics use, but a general overview and spatial variation of where we're going to be in this area. The overall interior security, I will walk you through. Second, I'm sorry. So essentially, can everyone see my arrow?
Yes.
So essentially, this is the man trap and vestibule I was talking about. This is where customers will walk in. They will be on camera here for tracking purposes in case anything happens with a weapon of any sorts. Upon entering, they will go into the sales floor where they will be tracked with 2 360-degree cameras. Upon entering, if any cases permit, if this happens, that an individual walks in intending to harm anybody on site, there are, if you see every other register, panic buttons that are be directed to not only our security officers, but also to the town of Dartmouth police as well, so they can have immediate contact times and respond times. Also, you see there are cameras behind all the POS systems. This is for tracking inventory and overall cash management for our employees to not only ensure compliance, but safety of products and overall monetary values. There are also obviously two bathrooms we hear in compliance as well. And the most important thing again is our secure inventory tracking and processing system. We will have alarms and overall security measures as well, tracking with cameras. Each window as well, you can see here, will have alarm systems in case broken. And the traffic flow will go, that they will walk in around the dispensary and leave out the exit only. This is our upstairs security. A general access or important item to note is that this area is not to be accessed without an authorized card for management, so that customers and or staff employees that are not incorporated with Apotho's overall management process will not be able to access this area as well. Apotho and Nucleus One together have developed comprehensive SOPs and guidance documents to exceed regulatory standards. On the right-hand side, you will see a list of every single one of our dispensary protocols and SOPs that we have implemented over time that will be ready by the time of opening, if not have already been completed as a whole. These detailed procedures will provide details for all staff to focus on compliance, safety, and overall security. These will be implemented for agile training and increased staff accountability for Apotho Therapeutics and the safety of the community. Our overall staffing plan, we will be able to hire experienced and knowledgeable individuals in this industry. We will have special efforts again to hire locally in the town of Dartmouth, while also including other diverse demographics as well. They will be thoroughly trained in excellent service and education, as well as going under other programs that have been newly implemented in the industry to ensure ID verification and overall product accountability. Overall, an important notion to have is the floor staff plan, which will consist of 10 individuals and seasonal floor staff consisting of 4 individuals. These will all be shift-based positions, and we will make sure that foot traffic is highly regulated with the amount of staff that we have on the floor regarding a COVID regulation or not. Our overall timeline is as follows. We hopefully plan to have all meetings and approvals for the town by this month or next month permitting. We will then apply from the CCC portal. Luckily, since Apotho Therapeutics has already applied for another location and is ongoing in that, our overall background information is relatively the same, and our overall process will be a lot faster since we do not have to go through new background information as a whole. As you can see upon the timeline, we plan to have an open for sales by December or February Q1 of 2021. Our overall construction will be permitted by 2 groups. Ken Steen, the individual, will be factored in the exterior of the building, while Valiant America, who is in this meeting as well, will be doing the interior with Apotho Therapeutics as a whole. And as you can see, we hope to have the timeline finished by January to be open for January or February, permitting on how things are going with COVID regulations and how fast the industry is going as a whole. We plan to keenly identify candidates in October to be amply ready for opening. Overall, we plan to hire various full-time employees. However, we most importantly plan to hire 50% of our staff in the town of Dartmouth by employing from local communities and being 43% higher than the minimum wage of Massachusetts for our bud tenders, especially at $18.26 an hour. We'll be able to reinvest this back into the community of Dartmouth as a whole. As mentioned previously, we have benefits for the town of Dartmouth. You see the chart on the bottom left. This is our overall forecasted revenue and how we plan to distribute the fees. A very important factor is actually our charitable contributions. 10,000 of this will go towards marijuana and other drug education as well to the community as a whole to ensure the knowledge about these products and about other products and the safety of the community as a whole is of the highest priority for Apotho Therapeutics. Overall, for the site construction, we plan on to incorporate sustainable practices and technologies, as well as implementing waste management and water conservation to meet town ordinances as well. We plan to be as environmentally friendly as possible with corporate policies and renewable material usage. Overall, low emission technology and alternative transportation strategies will be implemented as seen a bit. Overall, we are keeping up with market trends. Right now, we are in this ever-changing time due to COVID, trying to keep up with as much market trends as possible for the industry when Massachusetts opens back up for recreational sales. Overall, these products will be packaged and branded with CCC compliance to ensure the safety of individuals under 21 are not enticed to get these packages. We keep these packages in CCC compliance to ensure that only members of 21 and older will be able to use these packages, and no one younger will be enticed to use these. So essentially no colors or other cartoons in these packages as well, as you saw previously in my outline slide. In summary, Apotho Therapeutics plans to bring experienced staff from Plainville to Dartmouth, as well as using Nucleus One for experienced setup at this site. Overall, again, we are committed to hiring locally and 50% of full-time employees from Dartmouth, and we will work closely with the fire department and police department to ensure security plans and procedures. And again, we estimate a 10-month timeline from our application submission to our grand opening. We thank you so much, and we are open for questions at this time. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Mr. Medeiros. Any questions, gentlemen? Mr. Gracie.
Thanks. It's not really a question. I just wanted to compliment you folks on the package you put together and also on the presentation. You make it very clear. I appreciate that. So thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Tattlebaum?
A couple of small questions. A great presentation. Thank you for that. The second location you're working on is going to open sooner or after this. Could you expound on that?
We first submitted for a Plainville location in September, and we plan on opening in July or August of this year.
Of this, and
Yes.
finances won't be an issue for your second location.
No, we split our finances to fund each entity separately.
Thank you. And last question. I think it's a great idea. You have the extra parking in the back, but being a retailer myself, if you are you prepared with these two parking spaces? Prepare you for, let's say, a mega grand opening where you have issues of out on Fons Corner Road of parking and cars and congestion. Will those two, in your mind, if it's that big, take care of that problem?
Of course. So one of the things that we have actually planned on for even Plainville that we plan on implementing in Dartmouth as well is what you have to do is you have soft openings to have people understand, you understand the traffic flow as well. And then from there, you have a gradual grand opening. If you do one grand opening at once, you'll see similar trends in the industry when it started of these massive traffic buildups, right. Not very efficient for the town. So if you have soft grand openings at first, especially limited to one or two, you're able to see the traffic flow and understand how the traffic flow works before you have a massive grand opening.
Thank you.
No.
Anyone else? So we need to take a vote on the marijuana host agreement, a community host agreement with Apotho Therapeutics. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
You need a motion first.
Thank you. Make a motion that we sign an agreement, a host agreement between the town of Dartmouth and Apotho Therapeutics.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. McDonald, a second by Mr. Gracie. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mr. Gracie.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson, yes. Affirmative, all five. Thank you very much, and congratulations, and good luck.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us.
Yes, good luck.
Yeah.
All right. I see everybody dropping out.
See what we have now. Next.
Crowd.
Here comes the parade.
Whole crowd.
Let's see.
Is this town meeting?
This could be.
Just practice. Practice for the town.
Hey, Gloria.
He is supposed to be here.
Hello, Bob. Okay.
Peppy.
Okay, yeah. Terry.
Boy, look at everybody. Nice.
We ready to start?
Doesn't
One
everybody,
second. I just want to make sure everybody's here.
doesn't everybody show on the screen? I'm getting about half.
Well, you have to move it over to. I can't look at everybody at once.
Go to a gallery view.
I did that.
Nope, I pushed the wrong button. All I got is Stan.
No, you don't want that.
No.
Quiet over there. All right.
I can tell you one thing. Everybody's got interesting names on their little screens there.
All right. So I want to thank everybody for this momentous occasion where we have a meeting of this sort, and, with a joint meeting with the school committee and the finance committee and the select board at our homes, safe and sound, I hope.
Carol.
So who would like to...
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, I think we should have each member of the boards, everybody knows who we are, but as far as the finance committee, I know there's some new people on, and people looking at home, if they notice, everybody has a little name under theirs, but there's some people that don't have the full name, so people at home don't know exactly who they are. So if the chair of each board can introduce their people, or at least start, and then they just raise their hand so everybody at home knows, or whoever's watching at a later date knows who you are.
I was going to ask that same thing. So
Yeah, you will have to unmute.
I'll call the finance committee to order.
go ahead.
My name is Terry Ham. I'm the chairperson. Gloria Bancroft, do you want to put your hand up? Co-chair, thank you.
I'll give you a call.
We have Lou Garibaldi, Bob Garvin, Brian O'Hare, Beppy Weedcopper. Is that correct, Beppy? Yep. Okay. Jeff Raymond and Adam Silva. Adam is not feeling well. He might just be listening in tonight. And then Janine Simmons is Janine. So we do have 3 new people. Do you want to have the school committee go, Stanley?
Yeah, why don't we do that, Chairman? Okay. Madam Chairman?
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Amaral. I'm currently the chair of the school committee, and I have with me, if you could raise your hand, my Chris Oliver. He is the vice chairperson of the school committee. And what else do we have here? Dr. Shannon Jenkins is here. Dr. Carol Karafotis is here, and John News.
I'm up here.
There you are. Hi, John. And we also have with us our superintendent, Dr. Hiley is here. There he is in my bottom corner. He's our assistant superintendent of business and finance, right? Finance and operations. So thank you for having us.
Welcome all. So, Teresa, would you like to start this?
Sure. I want to say thank you, as you did, Stanley. This is an unusual situation, and I really appreciate the help from DCTV and also from Greg supporting 3 new members to the Finance Committee who we've asked for a lot of information in our process this year, and he's been available for all of that. So as Finance Committee members, we recognize that we're the oversight board to the town meeting, and I know that the select board has counted on us to do the detailed work in reviewing the budget proposal in the past, and we did that despite we had 4 meetings before we were interrupted with the COVID orders. So Again, we really relied on DCTV and on Greg and Sean to get us the information that we needed to finish out the process. And you had a chance to, I guess you received the draft warrant rationale and the cover letter. One of the things we've talked about, I know, for a few years in the Finance Committee is trying to do some kind of cover letter to the town meeting to give an overview. And we were able to accomplish that. Again, the committee, it's a great committee. They ask a lot of questions. They have a lot of ideas. Everybody on the committee has been willing to take a piece of this and work on it, and that's been really nice. And in our discussion, there were a few areas that we spent a lot of time on. You'll see in the votes, even so I'll start at the beginning under Schedule A. We had a long discussion on the position of youth advocate, and we can answer any questions that you have on that, but we tried to explain in our lengthy rationale where we were coming from on that. We were concerned about Schedule A, the operating budget, even before this pandemic, because we were looking at a reclassification study that changed the salary structure for many people in town, settlement of many employee contracts, and we were forecasting a tightening of the budget before this happened. So you can imagine where we are, in light of this. We appreciated the policy that was put in place in terms of a hiring freeze and a freeze on non-discretionary spending. And in our support for the budget moving forward, we hope that continues. That's our recommendation, because we are very concerned about where revenues could be in the next budget year. Not so much finishing this year, but in the next year and then the year after that, we're very concerned. And we had some concerns about the social day program at the senior center, and we can explain more of that if you have questions about that. But the biggest thing, I think, is that given the situation that we're in, we're recommending that we meet with the select board for the next few months to look at the status of the budget. We, as we said in the cover letter, about 30% of the revenues we are anticipating come from sources that are pretty much frozen up right now. So we don't know where this is going to stand in the future. And everybody on the Finance Committee feels strongly that we should check in with the select board. We know we only have another town meeting in the fall, but before that time and before any further consideration of capital spending, we really think that it's important for us to check in and have a plan to move forward in not in a reactive way. And for that reason, even though we recognize the limitations of our role, we have a very significant responsibility to town meeting to say where things stand. And it would be helpful, I think, we all think, if the school committee and if the select board could give some advanced thought to how decisions would be made in the event that a budget cut was necessary, if there were reductions. And I know people have been thinking about that because we've had a lot of conversations with school committee people already. And I will say, this has been said before, but the school committee did a great job with ramping up for this very unexpected process we find ourselves in. And so we have had a chance to talk quite a bit, but we would like to ask both the select board and the school committee to do some advanced thinking about how decisions will be made if that happens. So given the draft that we sent out to you and the cover letter, if you have questions about any of those, let's have a discussion about that. I might answer questions, or other people on the Finance Committee might answer, depending on what the questions are.
So anybody that has a question, just raise your hand, please, and I'll acknowledge them. No questions? Oh, Mr. Talabon.
I would like to first say that I look at the screen here and I see many past and present members of the Finance Committee. Finance Committee is an interesting place because you spend your time looking at numbers and deciding things based on a lot of black and white. And when it comes time to institute programs that have no black and white left for them, it has to do with what's almost right and wrong. I think the letter that was written and how the approach was made was an approach that I think is the absolute best way for our Finance Committee to approach the town's finances, to integrate thoughts at a time when the process is early on, take advantage of their delving into detail, and then making decisions based on facts and then trying to make a decision that ultimately works right for the most amount of people in town and what's affordable. I applaud the Finance Committee, what they've done, how they've done, and I look forward as we go forward as soon as possible to work on these details of saving money in places where we can save it and be more efficient, and maybe even have to look at certain positions and programs that need to be looked at, but do it in a way that's has a lot of logic and a lot of detail to it, as opposed to making it after the fact or too late. Thank you for the work you did.
Thanks, Mr. Tattlebaum. Anyone else? McDonald?
To be honest with you, it's pretty much cut and dried with the Finance Committee recommendations. For the most part, it's pretty much unanimous decisions across the board, with the exception of a couple here and there. Specifically, the explanation on the 5-3 vote on the budget is, it's pretty much cut and dried as to why, that was there. Really don't have anything much to say other than, appreciate what the time that they spent on this, going through all the information. I did it for 3 years, many, many moons ago. So it's, sometimes it's not a task that's totally appreciated.
We have 3 members of the select board that are former Finance Committee members. And Mr. Gracie.
Yeah. As one of those former people.
4, I'm sorry. I missed one. It must have been you, Frank.
Yeah, I've had to miss. As a person that spent a lot of time over on the Finance Committee, and I know how much work it is, and I want to just say I appreciate the work they've done and the summary they've put together. It really is quite comprehensive and easy to understand. So thank you very much for all the work you've done.
I guess, Stanley, I would ask about, because we need to agree to meet. Pete, do you think
I was just going to mention that.
In favor of meeting? And then the second request, which is, I don't know what process you'd follow, how you'd get together to do a plan in terms of approaching any necessary budget cuts. But that we wanted to mention that just so that we're not in a reactive situation if we get to that point.
I would imagine we need to isolate the things that will stick out right now that could be a problem, and let's look at those immediately. And I'm sure maybe we could have a small group get together and meet a few times, and then have both boards meet if you want to do it that way. Mr. McGinnis, maybe we could do that. Talk with Terry and see what things are troublesome as we can see today. That will be troublesome as we move along. This is going to be an incredible year, incredible 2 years for us. It will not be easy.
I agree. So I meet with Mr. Barnes weekly to review the finances, but we will schedule a meeting monthly with the Finance Committee, and also probably in August with the Select Board. I would recommend having another joint meeting, because that'll help us, and we may be doing it monthly as numbers start to come in from the state level and local level of where our revenues are at.
I think we might want to meet earlier than August.
We can do.
Seems to me, I don't know the date yet, but August it seems to be too late. Mr. McDonald, please.
I was going to suggest, I know Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Barnes meet on a regular basis, especially on the finances, but there's no reason why Sean and Greg can't meet with Jim from the school department, and get the 3 of them together and basically just write a synopsis of the meeting, and send it out to the 3 boards. So at least we have an idea on a regular basis as to what's going on. And then as far as meeting with, having another one of these meetings, I think probably a quarterly meeting is probably a good point. As long as we get a monthly update as to what's going on and how the finances are, I think that should be more than enough, at least getting an idea. And as far as developing any kind of a plans or any kind of contingency to look at budget cuts, I'm fully confident in the three of them coming together and coming up with some kind of at least a scenario as to where things can be done or what can be looked at and how the revenues are coming in and how that's going to shape that kind of information and that kind of discussion.
Ms. Ham?
And can I add something?
Yes, Ms. Jennings.
So I know Mr. Kiley, will be able to work with Mr. McGinnis and Greg Barnes on, that. But I also want to make people aware of that one of the complicating factors on the school side is we have no idea what school is going to look like in the fall. Our buses, at the elementary school level right now, I remember when my kids were little, there are 2 or 3 kids to a seat. That may not be possible, right? We may need more space. So it's really going to be quite difficult on the school side because we don't know what school looks like starting next year. And so, we can put that together, but I think there's even more uncertainty because our business may not look anything like normal, right, in the next fiscal year. And it's really hard to make predictions about that. And I know that we have a lot of that in the community, but we're going to have to look really seriously. Like if we can't run, buses are a significant expense for us. If we can't run them the way they do and they double, and then we have to look at cuts elsewhere,
you might have split sessions.
It's going to be very difficult because there's so many things we don't know about. It's not just what's coming in, it's what's instruction even is going to look like next year.
You might even have split sessions.
Yeah, we don't know anything about that.
Mr. O'Hare.
Yes, Brian O'Hare. Hello, everyone. I'm a new member. This is why I think we need monthly meetings, because the situation is going to be quite fluid. And just as you explained, Ms. Jenkins, that's why I think we have to stay on top of it, anticipate, and think about options going forward as things develop. I don't think we can wait. I don't think we can wait 3 months to talk.
I agree. Yeah, Mr. Tattlebaum.
I would suggest that we can't wait as well, but I would suggest that one member from each of our committees join the 3 staffers, and then it would be that person's job to report back to the committee at meetings. There's a lot of expertise in the room, and I'd be happy to volunteer myself to be part of that meeting. But I think that we need to do it regularly and report back to our committees, and then take action quickly if need be, because we'll have our ear right to the ground.
Yeah, it's important that we do that. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It's not a question of if we're going to have a problem. It's a question of when. Greg has outlined to us that 1 year from now, we are going to be in dire straits. And when we accept all the contracts, we're going to be even in bigger trouble. We have serious problems coming at us over a year from now.
I want to echo what Mr. Tattlebaum said in terms of the and we might consider that as a finance committee. I would need to talk with people, but it has been helpful to our committee to have kind of touch-based conversations with the chairpersons of the different committee as we move forward. Sean and Greg have opened themselves up to meeting with us regularly, and I think it's very helpful to keep the communication open. I think the biggest issue will be the response from the different boards as we learn more information. I know that we have uncertain revenues in the town. There's certainly going to be an impact on state revenues. We don't know what that is right now. Jim Kiley has talked about this concern in previous meetings. So until we know more, we won't be able to do much. But as a finance committee, I've only been involved for a few years on the finance committee. There are people who are on the finance committee, and some of you who went through a very difficult time in the past in Dartmouth's history in terms of responding to budget deficits. And what we would like to do, everybody on the finance committee wants to be supportive to Dartmouth, wants to make sure that we make decisions in a planful way, that we're not reacting and slashing things. And so what we're asking for the school committee and the select board to do is to give some thought and to be prepared to make decisions on that. We recognize we'd be just recognizing the deficits and saying, this is the situation we're in. How do you want to respond to that? And it would be Sean and Greg and the other boards that would need to be responding. So that was the main point that we had. I want to go back to the rationale. So there were no questions on the decisions that were made or some of the concerns. The concern about the social day, for example, was that they requested a waiver of the indirect costs this year, which we could not approve because that would apply to many other boards. And that is just kind of a red flag that they're having trouble sustaining their program for a number of reasons. So we're recommending that a more thorough examination be done of that program because it obviously provides a valuable service. But if it's not sustainable, that has to be recognized. The question about the youth advocate, any questions on what the issues were there?
Well, I'd like to hear from one person that was in favor of it and one person that was against, and their reasons. I know you wrote about it, but the people at home are not reading this. So. We
can do that. Gloria Bancroft is liaison to the Youth Commission, so I'll ask her to start. And then, Bob, do you want to follow her?
Yes.
Okay, Gloria?
Sure. So, I mean, it's no secret that the position had been vacant for a year and a half, and there were many questions regarding what was going to happen in the future pertaining to that particular position. But in the end, when, ultimately we did know also that this select board had met with the commission, had made a decision to rework, or I should say redefine the position moving forward. And that process had been halted due to the pandemic. So we didn't see any final job description. We didn't have an opportunity to evaluate that. But at the end, what it came down to was that the youth advocate is not a new position. It's a vacant position. And that's an important distinction because there are other vacancies currently in the budget. We did, Greg did share with us that there's a cashier in the collector's office that's vacant. There's a fleet manager that's vacant. There's a position in the library that's vacant, an information specialist. So with those vacancies, it makes it a little bit different than a new position. Like if, excuse me, prior to the pandemic, when we met with the different departments, what I found was that there were many requests from different departments that were a little bit stressed out, and they were requesting to have new positions. We heard from Parks and Conservation. We also heard from Building. They were all looking for new positions. And then the pandemic hit, and then the hiring freeze went into play. And so, as Terry mentioned, with the budget going forward for fiscal year 21, we wanted to maintain staffing at a level position, so no new positions. So the youth advocate, again, not being a new position, but a vacant position, was a little bit different. And so we just felt that it was not our place to talk about eliminating one vacancy when there were others that already existed in the budget. So that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob, do you want to, we were almost split. Do you want to talk about the other opinion?
Yeah, I wrote the minority opinion. I watched the select board meeting when the whole subject of the advocate came up. And so I'd just like to read my opinion and then just respond to something Gloria said at the end. It is the opinion of the dissenting members that the position not be included in Schedule A 2021 budget for the following reasons. One, the position has been vacant for a year and a half. Two, there are no plans to fill a position soon due to the financial pressures caused by COVID-19 crisis. And the soonest that position could possibly be filled would be a year from now. So that position would be empty for 2.5 years. At a recent select board meeting, the town administrator indicated that this position had not been filled because he found that when the last youth advocate left and the workload was evaluated, it was determined that the caseload was very low. The select board created a subcommittee to study the possibilities of expanding the job description so that this position would have a full workload. And this process has been put on hold due to the coronavirus. I also looked. I couldn't talk to anybody. I went to the websites of neighboring towns, and I found that New Bedford, Acushnet, Fairhaven, Mattapoisett, and Westport do not have youth advocates. So it's unique to Dartmouth. I felt that the town is facing a financial crisis and has created a tremendous amount of uncertainty of estimating revenues and expenses, and including in the budget a youth advocate position and associated expenses with demand for this service is very limited, and potential expenses going down the line of unknown. I think it's fiscally irresponsible to put it in the budget. So, I mean, it got a lot of exposure because it was at the select board meeting, and I'd just like to address one of the things that Gloria brought out. One, we can't evaluate all positions. That's not our job. I mean, I think the school committee has certain positions, and they might have 10 positions, and they kind of can juggle their positions around. So, but this position is a line item on the budget, and with the salary, expenses, and the benefits, we're talking about $90,000. And if we can't cut one position on the budget going into this fiscal crisis, I don't know what we're doing. So I obviously felt strongly about it, and I wrote the dissenting opinion. And what I would like to, and I don't know if it's too late, but I would like to remove it from the warrant so it doesn't even come up, because it'll be a discussion point at town meeting, and if it goes on the warrant, that position goes on the warrant, I'm going to submit an amendment to remove that position. So anybody got any questions? I mean, that's.
I think both people did a fair job of reflecting the discussion that we had, which was lengthy. It covered a few meetings, and the vote means that we're recommending that it be supported in Schedule A as it is. So that would be, we'll see what other people decide on that. I know that you haven't taken your vote yet, correct? On the articles?
Not yet. After this, after you guys leave, yeah.
So but I think we did a good job of explaining, and you can see where people are coming from on that. Apart from that, there wasn't a lot of discussion. There was a lot of consideration given to people's requests because, as I said earlier, the Finance Committee is very supportive of the work that the town is doing, and we want to make sure that we do the right job in making sure that work can continue. But I think that pretty much covers. I'll put it out to the Finance Committee. Anything else that you wanted to say?
Mr. Gracie first. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm usually a guy who talks about things that aren't pleasant, so I'm going to continue that. Let's see. We don't, as everybody has said, we don't know what's coming. Okay, but one thing we do know is there's not going to be enough money to support everything. There are going to be significant changes that are going to have to be made. We've already been warned about layoffs coming as a possible actuality. So one of the first things I would suggest is that all vacant positions now not be filled, because that helps in the overall goal. Furthermore, if any position becomes vacant, unless it's a critical position, we also not fill that either. And that can only help in the long run. But to me, that seems to be the right way to dig yourself out of a hole. There's no sense in making the hole deeper and then have to turn around and try and get out of the hole. So anything would be an easy thing right now, which is a vacant position, not be filled. That's just what makes sense to me.
And I think we agree. And as I said at the beginning, the budget that we support is with the assumption that the hiring freeze that you put into policy and the restriction on non-essential spending will continue, because that's how we were able to recommend what we did. We agree, basically.
Lou, did you have your hand up?
The social day program at the senior center, I was very naive about it. I was talking to some of the people there, and since it's not open currently, there is no social day. We don't know how long it'll stay closed, depending on what could be up to the summer or later, based on what's going on with this whole disease problem. And so I know the town is supporting about 250,000, 258,000. And they, with no question, we have probably the best senior program in the country, at least in our region, I should say. And they do a great job, right? But if they can't get people in, can't sit down because of and whatever, they're just there's money building up, that isn't being used because the programs currently can't operate under the current situation.
Mr. Gracie.
Yeah, I want to be clear because I think social daycare is a different situation. That's not being used for a different reason. But if miraculously they were at a snap of a finger, everything changed tomorrow, there would be a need for that again. So I would not recommend that we forget about the social daycare. I think as soon as it's available to function, I would consider that a critical service and something that would need to be fit back into things. So I just want to be clear because to me that's not a vacant, not quote a vacant job. That's a vacant service because of what's going on in the world. So I agree.
I agree, and 100%. But it depends on how long this goes as a vacant program. And everybody wants it back, I'm sure.
So Kathleen, can I ask you a question? Do you have any questions for the Finance Committee, or in terms of future meetings, did it make sense to you, the model of having representatives? Did your committee think it makes sense to have? I know that there's ongoing conversations with Jim and Greg and Sean McInnes, but does it make sense?
Well, I can't speak for the committee right now, other than to say that I found it helpful to be part of it, and knowing that Jim is in, communication and reports back to us. It's very helpful, especially during this time.
Ms. Bancroft.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, we were talking about moving forward during the summer, how we were going to meet. If I heard correctly, it sounds as if, the Finance Committee will meet. And then I think Sean McDonald said that, maybe we could have a representative. So Mr. McInnes and Greg are always present at our meetings. Perhaps Jim Kiley and a member of the Finance Committee could also join us, and that would be the group, unless you think differently.
A member of the Select Board, you mean? And
sorry, yes.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mr. Tattlebaum already volunteered.
Brian, do you have a question?
I would disagree. I mean, I feel that everybody here has a valuable opinion, and to limit it to one person from each committee to be liaising with a town administration, I think might be a mistake. So, I mean, I'll go with the way the majority wants to go, but I think everybody here has an opinion, and it should be considered. It's probably a very considered opinion on top of that.
I think that for our Finance Committee, I think we would like to meet, and I think that we've said that we'd like to schedule that. And then I think it's up to the Select Board to determine whether they, just send Mr. Tattlebaum and the School Committee send one person, or do you want more to attend? I agree that when we have a few people in on these meetings, we've had some good conversations, but I think it's up to the Select Board and the School Committee to determine how they want to participate. Becky?
Well taken. So would the rest of the board like to vote on that? Would you would like someone to make a motion to meet monthly with the Finance Committee and the School Committee and the Select Board? And it's up to you guys, whatever you want to do. Frank?
Yeah. let's see. I have maybe at least one suggestion. I think we could do a variety of different things. I think communication is what's most important. The last thing I want to do is be sitting in a situation and find out something about a week after it was a relevant problem. So I would suggest we set up something. Maybe monthly is the right thing to do. Maybe we still have representatives go to have meetings if they happen more often than that. But I also suggest that everybody's name here, email address, be put on a master mailing list, and everybody get information as soon as it's available. And also that we could generate any ideas that come from somebody on one of the lists, one of the groups, so that everybody's aware of somebody else's idea, and have all ideas would become fresh that way, as opposed to waiting for somebody to deliver it to them.
That's an open meeting law. That might be an open meeting law violation if everyone's.
Mr. Nooms.
You can send out lists to everyone. You don't have to respond to everyone.
Mr. Nooms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been sitting here listening and people talking about, monthly, quarterly, that type of deal. I think, if we went every month to 6 weeks at the moment, I think we would be fine to meet in July. I mean, unless the state budget totally falls apart for FY21, there's not much there that we're going to be able to tackle. I don't think in July, as everything is just starting to get closed out from fiscal 20. You get into August and you start looking to see how things are running. You can bring in, you start your, every 4 to 6 weeks getting together, Mr. McGinnis, Mr. Barnes, Mr. Kiley, they're meeting, constantly and talking. I mean, if something hits the fan, it's nothing to sit there and say, okay, a week from Monday night, this is what's going on, and we've got to have a joint meeting because here's the major problem we have to address it at this point in time for argumentative sake, try to nip it in the bud if at all possible.
Right.
I would disagree. Let Beppy talk.
Well, thank you, Brian, and I just want to say hello because I too am a new member and I've been fascinated to learn more about how this town works and really appreciate the opportunity to help. I think there's so many things that we can already begin to anticipate. State funding in certain areas, the non-property tax, the sort of extra funding. We can do a lot of what ifs fairly soon. And we should also start, we don't have to wait till July to start saying, here's a couple of scenarios. What if the total revenues are down 10%? What if total revenues are down 20%? And which lines are most likely? You can almost pick 3 line items in the revenues where it's likely to go down. And if it does, what's scenario 1? Do we go to our rainy day fund? What's scenario 2? Half rainy day fund, half cuts. There's a whole bunch of things you can start thinking about sooner than waiting till it's actually happened, till the information comes. And I will say I've found the members of this committee terrific, of the finance committee, saying, what are the priorities? And I agree, because when you decide that you have to make cuts, is it across the board? Or are there some areas that we think maybe you could make some decisions to not buy new machinery 1 year or new vehicles because there is a lot of priorities that we should start thinking about before the crisis is known. We can start doing some what ifs, and I think I personally would like to be involved in that, at playing out some scenarios, because then we'll have a better sense of what's important to this town and how we want to react.
I'm still here.
I would agree. I think we have to be proactive, because it's a fluid situation. And I think that going forward, we can't wait till July, because we have to be able to think, otherwise we'll be reacting. We have to be proactive and think about what we might want to do so we maintain the highest possible services for citizens of the town, given the fiscal circumstances. Well, I can't support, and I would be vehemently opposed against We have to have it on a monthly basis. And then if things turn out fine, we can suspend the meetings.
Right.
Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, I'm just speaking from an administrative perspective. We have already agreed to meet with the Finance Committee on a monthly basis to better educate them on our forecast in terms of expenditures and revenues. In terms of having a large group, school committee, select board, and FinCom all meeting together, I would caution you that initially we're going to have very little to share in terms of certainty, in terms of revenue and expenditure. The state has not given us any firm direction as to where they're going. Stuff like motor vehicle excise, we're probably not going to know until next January. Even hotel, motel, and other taxes, we don't receive those revenues until months later. So I think it's important that we do meet and do a monthly, but I just caution if we have some big group, I don't want to be just basically telling you what I'm already telling you now, which I can tell you in June and July, as John mentioned, there's probably not going to be much in terms of revelation. And certainly if there were anything, we would immediately share it with all policymakers.
Okay.
There'll be no surprises, I'm sure.
So we will
I
plan.
can't guarantee that, but if we learn of something, we'll let you know.
We'll plan to meet and we'll have further communication. I'll be in touch with the next chairperson. However we move forward, we'll be in touch with the chairs of the select board and the school committee to figure out how we communicate. Are there any other questions?
Teresa, sooner rather than later.
Yep. Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Tettelbaum.
Will the Finance Committee continue to meet on the same nights that the Select Board meets? Not an issue, right?
We've been meeting on Thursday nights unless we need extra meetings. We've had a few extras.
I might suggest that I would like to attend that meeting, and my only goal there would be not to represent myself, only represent myself, and bring back information to the Select Board as we meet on a regular basis. And I would suggest that maybe someone from the school committee be there along with the three the people who know about the finance of town than anybody. And I think that, is it necessary? Is it going to be productive every time? No, but I think it gives us a real handle on what we can then report back on a regular basis.
Information is what we need.
I also would add one quick thing about the youth advocate. I would like to find out once and for all town meeting support is for that position and wait for discussion at length. It's obviously not going to happen now soon, but let's hear what town meeting say about it and then move forward based on the input at the meeting. I had this conversation with Jamie from the Youth Commission. He agreed with me that thrash it out, find out once and for all, where does the town stand in this position? Go on and on about our own opinions. But in the end, what is our town as a majority?
Okay. What?
Okay. So, yeah, I was hoping that the select board would vote tonight to remove it from Schedule A, but that's not the direction that David's going in. So I will, it kills me to vote against Schedule A because we had to vote against the whole schedule just because of the youth advocate. So I'll put I'll talk to Melissa and I'll put in a typed up legal written amendment to make a motion on town meeting to not fund that position. But I would like the select board to vote tonight to remove it from Schedule A.
Will be under discussion. Mr. McDonald.
In the past, we've gotten slammed for not putting things forward to town meeting. This is a discussion that needs to be made at town meeting. And I will vehemently fight against anything against it. Let town meeting discuss it. And, you know, we get nailed all the time. Oh, it doesn't come before town meeting, or nothing comes before us for discussion. Well, you know something? This is something that needs to be discussed, and that's the way it should be. So anything to say to pull it out or whatnot, fine, Bob. If you want to put in a motion to remove it from the budget, you know, it'll still be discussed at town meeting. So that's the whole deal. But this is something. It's going to go. I will fight any motion from any of my board members to remove it before it goes to town meeting. I'm going to vote against it because it should be discussed at town meeting.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain.
Debbie?
I'm sorry, but somebody earlier suggested that all positions, that you already choose to recommend that all positions be frozen until I really think that's a terrific, unless they're
we have a hiring freeze.
I think that's a great idea, and that would almost.
Right.
I would support that if the select board decided to do that.
Well, the hiring freeze is in place. We did that quite a while ago.
Yeah, there was a spending freeze memo. Oh, sorry. There was a spending freeze memo that was written by Sean and myself. And within that is a hiring freeze of all non-essential personnel, and also recommending no new non-essential positions for the upcoming budget. That was supported by both the select board and the finance committee. So,
and what is the expiration date on that, Greg?
There was
okay. So that was our thought, that there was not an expiration date on that, and that is necessary in order for us to support the budget as it is right now.
You want a date, or are you saying you don't care if there is a date?
It doesn't.
Yep. Right. Yep. Open-ended at this point. Yep.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, there's another question, John.
Oh, Mr. Herron.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the school committee. Are we paying for the bus contract right now since the buses aren't running?
I can speak to that.
Mr. Kiley.
So we are currently not. There is discussion throughout the state about this, including some potential legislation. We do have a contractual agreement and recognize that we would be responsible for some of the costs of the bus contract, but that is yet to be determined. So it's still being negotiated from community to community in the Commonwealth with some guidance from the state that's been offered. No legislative action on it yet, but there's also my understanding is there is a bill relating to it that is expected to be passed. So we will have some obligation, but not in full.
Could you send a copy of that contract to Attorney Savastano for his review?
Certainly, at the discretion of the school committee, I certainly could.
Thank you.
We should seriously look at it. Mr. Tattlebaum.
This is an indication. I don't think there's any more of a high priority for all of us in this meeting right now to understand that the unbelievable pressure that our schools and kids are right now, what we need to do for the fall to make this right. It's incredible what you have to do to accomplish to try to even get us ready for whatever's going to be for next year. And it's we give 100% full support to make it right.
I agree.
Anyone else? So would you like to allow Attorney Savastano to look at that contract, Madam Chairman?
What's the purpose of that?
I don't know.
Well, if there will be any future cost to the town, can we save any money going forward?
I'll open it to my committee. I think that. I thought somebody was saying something. Chris?
No, I'll just say I think we should take it back under consideration. Clearly, I have all the faith in the world of Mr. Kiley and our legal counsel. So I know that if Mr. Kiley recommends to the committee that for us to share it, that is something we can certainly do. But I think that's something we can take up at our next meeting.
Okay.
Good.
Mr. Nunes.
Yeah, I'm good. I agree with my colleagues, Mr. Chairman, and if we need to discuss that at our next meeting, we can do that.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn from somebody on the Finance Committee.
I know.
Epi, second. Who's seconding? Gloria? Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk like this. I think this has been a good meeting. I appreciate everybody's input.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Great night.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
School committee?
There they go.
Motion to adjourn the school committee meeting.
Second. Did you get that, Kathleen?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having issue with my sound.
So we need to vote out.
Yeah.
We got a motion on the floor by Shannon, a second by myself.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.
Take care. Be well, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris.
Thanks.
Kathleen?
Carol, John.
You're dropping off.
We'll wait for the screen to clear.
Oh, it's still an open meeting.
Kind of like whack-a-mole. Somebody drops
You
out.
can watch on
Somebody
DC.
picks up.
You can watch on YouTube, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, on the screen to clear, it's going to be now.
What's YouTube, John?
Are you still there? No, he's gone. Okay.
Lou's got to clear out.
Yeah, I hear a lot of noise in the hallway. All right.